God's always at work. God's always doing something. It's whether we're in tune with what He's doing and how we join Him in what He's doing. When we gave up our lives to follow Him, the idea is that we follow Him. It's not that we mark our course and we go off. It's that we keep in step and, keep in step with the Holy Spirit. That's where we find unity. That's where we find strength. That's where we find peace. That's where we find all of those things. And when it's not blowing a gale, when it's not in the, the high wind and everything's rushing and it's exciting and it's thrilling, but the quieter moments, well, that's when you get to tend to the vessel and make sure that everything's okay, replace the rope that needs replacing, fix the sail that might have a tear in it, you shore up the mast to make sure that it's strong enough to withstand those other times. And I think God is seasonal in His activity, and we see that in general revelation, of what happens in our world all of the time in the seasons that we have. And we go through those seasons of life just the same. And there'll be times where it feels like we're going slow and we don't particularly make any progress. And that's when you attend to the things that make sure need attending to, that we don't become complacent, and we're ready for when he moves with great power. It's then you can sustain the force of the wind in moving you towards the vision.
What about navigating at night? I love to, sometimes I really love to navigate at night because I can't see anything, to trust the instruments, particularly trust the map. And being a map guy, I've learnt to trust the map. In those times of, like even the last couple of years, those moments of times of darkness where, you feel like maybe the enemy's at work, he's getting the upper hand. What is the light of Jesus? What is the light of what God's calling you to? What does the light in the darkness look like for you that you hold on to?
Well, you go back to that time when we were out here before and we had to move in the night, and that's a little hairy, particularly if you don't know what you're doing. You've learnt to navigate in the dark and trust the map and those sorts of things. And I guess that's in our lives, learning to trust His word, learning to rely on Him, to stay true to the things that we know are true of Him. He's good. He's always good. Regardless of circumstance, regardless of what we're going through, He is good. But there's nothing like seeing the light come in through the darkness and to go, oh, that's where we are. Now I see where we got to in the night, and it is much more pleasurable, isn't it, when you can see the horizon, when you can see the beautiful markers, when you can see the things around you. But no doubt there's the night times, there's the night seasons as well. And, I think it's the same. It's, you need to rely on something. You've learnt to rely on the map. We need to rely on God's word that He's given to us. We need to rely on who He has proclaimed Himself to be, and trust that that's who He is, and He doesn't disappoint when we do that. And it doesn't mean it's, the darkness can still be a bit frightening. The darkness can still be a bit, okay, I really hope this map is right, because if it's not, we're going to run aground, And so I think that, that's par for the course, isn't it? Learning to navigate in those seasons of darkness, and they're not easy, and they take its toll. Sailing through the night means you're not sleeping, and which means you can get tired. And I think we're all a bit tired in different ways, but we know that the dawn is coming. We know that He's He's not leaving us in perpetual darkness. He's overcome the darkness. He is the light. He is the light of the world, and he asks us to be the same. And so that's what we hold out faith that he's going to enter into those ways with us and bring us into the light and guide and direct us that way as well.
But as a leader, I guess you'd have the challenge of not just navigating yourself and your family through that challenge, but the responsibility of navigating the whole church through that. How do you shoulder that kind of responsibility?
Easier sometimes than others. I think anyone who's ever led a church, and it doesn't matter whether it's small in number or large in number, it's complex. It involves people.
Fallen people.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was John Ortberg who wrote a book once that said, "No perfect people allowed," in his reference to the church. And it's true, the old adage, don't go to that church, because you'll ruin it, you're not perfect. It's true, when none of us are, so, and we can't expect it to be, but it does take its toll, I think, in ensuring that you, to some degree or another, the decisions you make and those things, it can't be just on experience, although you'll grow in wisdom through the years because of experience. It can't be just on, understanding, because that might have got you through one situation, but it might not get you through the next. And so it comes back to the same as it does in each of our own personal lives, and leading the church as much as leading the others. It comes back to intimacy. It comes back to the disciplines of keeping yourself close to the Lord. It comes back to, we haven't been this way before, so stay close. When Joshua gave the command that God gave him to tell the people of Israel when they were about to cross over into the Promised Land, and the priesthood took up the Ark of the Covenant to make the way, and they went first into the water, and then the rest followed. They firstly had consecrated themselves, so they got themselves right with a holy God, and made sure that they allowed what only he could do, bring them into that holy place, cleanse them, so that they were ready to stay close and follow after. And the words were, stay close, don't get too close, like stay that reverent distance from where I am, because you're going to need to see what I do, so you can follow me, because you're not leading, I'm leading. But do so in such a way then that you need to pay close attention, because you haven't been this way before. And I kind of feel like that's like in leading a church, it's the same. It's like if you feel like you've been this way before, then maybe you're not really setting sail. Maybe you are under your own steam. Maybe you're motoring around the same space time and time again, whereas the new adventures, the horizon that's yet to be discovered, comes under the sail, which sets us free. It takes us on this journey, and that means that as a leader, and it's not just my leadership, it's the leadership of the church. It involves other people as well, and involves a team of paid staff and volunteers and everybody to come and be seeking the Lord together. And when we do that, and there's an agreement amongst us that yes, this is where the Lord's leading us, then there's that general sense too of accountability, of encouragement, of when one of us, gets tired standing at the house, like, can I help you there? Can I hold that with you? Can we shore each other up in these places to encourage each other to keep going after the thing that God's called us to? All of those things play a factor, in leading a church.
I was just really resonating with what you're saying before around sort of being used to travel a well-trodden path. Had 30 years of navigating in outback Australia. I feel very comfortable in the most remote desert all by myself, not a fear in the world. But in a transition time of life, I feel like all the things that God's calling me to are things are places I've never been before, and all of them involve loving people more, being more vulnerable, being more loving more courageously, and working in areas that I'm not used to working in. And it's a challenge because I'm going to have to trust Him more. One of the things that I've learned really well through worship leadership in River Life is, like when you're talking about before, of embracing the Father's presence. I just keep picturing how I've learnt to worship with my arms open wide, and even Jesus had his arms open wide in that embrace. But I've also learnt the power of just standing in worship no matter what the circumstance, and just declaring that God, you're real, you're good, I love you. Despite what's going on, I'm going to lift my hands in praise and worship you. But you're talking before about Joshua with the Ark of the Covenant, leading with the priests across the river. It was a reminder of the importance of putting worship first as we come into God's presence. We've been a worship-centered church for some time, but what is it about worship that's so powerful in terms of putting that first before we go into battle, before we go and love?
Yeah. Well, you can only take with you what you've received. And when we come to worship, we're ministering to the Lord. The thing that you've learnt or learning, and we all are in our lives, is that when we come to worship, it's not about us. It's actually, when we come in, it's not about us. It's not even about the people around us. It's about Him. That's it, And when two or three are gathered in His name, there He is amongst us. His presence, and His presence is what transforms us. Moses, I don't want to go anywhere if your presence isn't with us and going before us. 2 Chronicles 7, when it just says, if my people who are called by my name, this idea of possession, this idea that when we say we're worshippers, what we're really saying is, I'm not mine, I'm yours, and I'll worship you, and I'm coming now to minister to you. It's in that place when we come in that we're being filled. It's in that place of abiding. It's that space of intimacy. And we are often the ones who control that. God is always wanting to be close. God is always near. God is always listening. God is always wanting and desiring that we would turn to Him. It's up to us whether we take the responsibility of coming hungry, coming thirsty, coming longing, this embracing idea, And so it's when we come into that space that we're fueled, and that means we take with us. We come in so that we go out. And if we don't come in first, what do we take with us? What do we go out with? I can be the best human possible, and it's great. Please be good humans, But better humans are ones empowered by His Spirit. They're Spirit-empowered people, And so that's the difference when we go out. That's why our vision statement says that we embrace the Father's presence. We're this family. We're together, we're journeying, we're loving with one another together. First and foremost, the family. The Father is the one who's the head of our family. And as we gather and we come in, we press in and we push in and we allow Him to transform us as we worship Him, as it's all about Him, there comes this exchange when it's not about us anymore, but we become the beautiful recipients of everything that He wants to do in and through us. That's the beauty of His mercy and His grace and His goodness towards us, is we start receiving things we don't deserve. His empowering presence, and He comes upon us and He moves in us. That's then when we're released, when we go out as these empowered people, we've got to find the power first. And it's by this abiding, it's by this relentless pursuit of just the pursuit isn't that He's hard to find. The pursuit is to put aside all the other stuff, to just make Him the one focus. Because for all eternity, that's what it'll be. Him being worshipped. not necessarily singing, but us being in his presence when he comes in the new heaven and earth, and we're there with him, and it'll be all about him, not about us. And so when discipleship, when evangelism, when these other things move away, we're still left with worship, because that's who we're created to be. And so we must come in order to go out with power. We must go out then with this renewed sense of love. I can love people as a human, but I can love them better when it's God's love out of the overflow of what I've experienced myself in his love, working through me to go out to others. I think the year ahead is different. 2022 is different because the world has been shaken. We've been shaken to the point of what our families have been shaken. What do we spend our time doing? Who do we spend our time with? What's most important in life? What do I hold on to? Is my faith real relevant? Is it put into action? Is it just something? It was more about my community rather than about my Saviour. And I think that the shaking may still continue to some degree, but I think the things that have been shaken to the point where maybe they're shaken off have been the things that maybe don't matter so much. There's things that we need to go ahead with now that are taking us into these new spaces and new places, and maybe places we haven't gone before, maybe doing things differently that we haven't done those things before like that. And that's sailing close to the wind. That's when it's just a soft, gentle breeze, that we can still be moving empowered by him, or whether it's that roaring gale behind our back that allows us to throw the spinnaker wide and just really go after things. And I just feel like there's a season ahead, and where enough of the shaking has happened, that enough stuff has dropped off to go, what's really important? What's really important? And what's really important is what the last thing he told us to go do. Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teach them to do all that I've commanded you to do. This is how I want you to be. This is how it looks. This is my life in action. Go and be like I was. I've given you my spirit. I give you my power. I give you my authority. Now go. Don't stay. Don't hold on into this place where it's about you, because it's not. It's about others. And I think the shaking that we've had has caused us to go, wow. Cafes taken away, some ministries were able to meet, the things that were all comfortable for me in my right place. Why am I here? Is it because I love Jesus? And is it because I've laid down enough that now he's the only thing that really matters, and being about his business is first and foremost? Wherever I am, that's my front line. Wherever I am, I'm laid down to let his wind take me and do what he wants in through me. That's it. And it'll look lots of different ways. I don't want to get to the prescribed thing that it's going to be X and it's going to be Y and you have to do this or you have to do that. God knows you better than you know yourself, and he knows why he's got you where you are right now. And there's a meaning and there's a purpose and there's a reason that he's got you where you are. Now let him do what he wants to do. That's where I think God's taking us this year, and that's why I think it's going to be different as we take a different attitude towards things. The things that's at stake if we don't move with where he's taking us, if we decide not to hoist a sail, if we decide to not trim that sail, not catch that wind, is that you'll stay exactly where we've always been. And God's never not on the move. He's always up to something, because his government will know no end. Like the extension of his kingdom until he comes back is still advancing, and at stake is not being obedient. At stake is not walking with and being in. I can't think of a more thrilling place to be than right smack bang in the center of God's will, being used by him for how he's created me and us to be. And God never set us up to just be a great big comfortable place in the western suburbs of Brisbane. He's called us to change the world. That was the whole deal back with 12 disciples, was to start a church that would change the world. And it hasn't changed. He's just got lots more of us now. And so the potential should be far and exceeding, what we've ever read about even in scripture, to the end point of his return. And I just want to see the advancement of his kingdom and what he wants to do in and through us. And at stake is missing that. And if we miss that and we don't catch that wind, we'll be living to less than what we really are created to be, and we'll miss the enjoyment of that journey. And and really what's at stake is the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people, maybe tens, who knows how the influence reaches far and wide, tens of thousands maybe, of people who are waiting to hear the reason for their existence. They're waiting to hear about Jesus. They don't even know it yet. And if we don't catch the wind to go out and do that, then we're not only missing our great opportunity, people are missing a great opportunity. We need to move out and beyond to let them know. I think is the link between the vision that we have as a whole as a church and the vision that we have for this year ahead in 2022 is that it's time that when we allow the wind of his spirit to take us, where is it taking us? It's taking us into the places that require us to be settled only for him. It's not about us. It's about what he's wanting to do. And his love to come to earth to seek and to save the lost is what has to be on our hearts. It has to be where we do. We have to allow the wind of his spirit to take us out and beyond thinking that we're on just what we want to do here and feel comfortable about it. And it's about moving to where he wants to take us and out into the world as these on fire, hearts set apart, sold out people who, above and beyond everything else, this compelling love that we have because of the overflow of what we experienced out of his love to take it to the world around us. And that's where we're setting our sail to this year, is to the beyond the four walls, out into our community, out to love on the world around us in such a way that God will take a hold of people's lives and change them, transform them, bring them into this wonderful, everlasting relationship with him, and that they will be likewise just so transformed that they couldn't help go and transform another and another and yet another and another and another.